אתה מנהיג ייחודי, ויש לך זיקה למדינת ישראל ייחודית, אבל באמת מה שפחות מכירים, וציין זאת היושב ראש, זה כישרון הציור שלך. ציירת בעצמך, נתת לי ספר של הציורים שלך, הסתכלתי בזה, זה לא יאומן. איך יש לך את הזמן והיכולת, אני לא יודע, אולי בישיבות פרלמנט ארוכות, אבל הוא לא מצייר רק, he paints, עם שילוב של צבעים שקשה להאמין. זה איזה משהו שפורץ מתוכך. ואתה גם הוראת לצבוע בתים ישנים בטירנה בצבעים מריבים. יש כאן רעיון, אנחנו נבחן את זה, אבל לא בירושלים, אנחנו שומרים על אבן ירושלמית. אבל זה רעיון. יכול להיות שנגייס אותך לאיזה עבודה זמנית. תעזור לנו גם כן. אני סבור שישנם כמה קווים משיקים בין מדינאות לציור. לא פעם מדינאים צריכים לבצע מהלכים היסטוריים במשיכות מכחול גדולות. במקרים אחרים הם צריכים לעשות זאת יותר נקודתית, במשיכות מכחול קטנות. בביקור הזה אנחנו מציירים יחד תמונה גדולה בצבעים בהירים. תמונה של עתיד מבטיח לטובת אלבניה ולטובת מדינת ישראל. ראש הממשלה רמה, אדי חברי היקר, אני מברך במלוא החום וההוקרה אותך, את רעייתך, את המשלחת שנלווית אליך. ברוך בואכם, חברים יקרים, לירושלים. ברוך בואכם למדינת ישראל שמחבקת אתכם אל ליבה. תודה רבה לכם.
תודה לראש הממשלה, ואני מתכבד כעת להזמין את ראש האופוזיציה, חבר הכנסת יאיר לפיד, לשאת דברים. בבקשה.
אני חושב שזו התנכלות של הממשלה אליי שמביאים מנהיגים כל כך גבוהים. לפני כל דבר אחר אני מצטרף לדברי יושב ראש הכנסת וראש הממשלה לגבי הגיבור שלנו, רן גבילי, זכרו לברכה, ברוך פודה ומשיב, ואנחנו שולחים מפה למשפחתו חיבוק גדול בשם כל חלקי הבית. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Prime Minister, distinguished guests, the Speaker has mentioned that in Albanian there is an expression that every Albanian child knows, Bessa. Bessa means to keep your promise, or to be a person who can be counted upon. We, the Jewish people, know that this concept carries a deep meaning to it. The question of whether Albanians could be trusted was tested in our darkest hour, and they kept their promise. At the beginning of the Second World War, Albania was occupied by the Italians, and in 1943 the German army, the Nazis, entered and occupied Albania. As in every other country they occupied, the first thing the Germans did was to demand lists of the Jews living there. This was a standard procedure throughout Europe, and they never encountered real resistance. Mr. Prime Minister, the Nazis placed my father in the Budapest ghetto, and the Hungarians helped. And my grandfather was murdered in Mauthausen concentration camp, and the Austrians helped. And my great-grandmother perished in Auschwitz, and Polish policemen helped capture prisoners who tried to escape. Only the Albanians said no. After almost all of Europe has surrendered, the extermination camps were already built, the Albanians said, we will protect the Jews because we know how to distinguish good from evil. We know how human morality, what human morality is. We have Bessa. We owe you, Mr. Prime Minister, a debt of honor, and we will never forget it. This lesson of what moral commitment looks like when the world is falling apart returns to us today as the international order we have known for the past 80 years is unraveling almost at once. At the end of the Second World War, when the world was exposed to the horrors of the Holocaust, a new global order was created. Institutions like the United Nations, the International Court of Justice, the World Health Organization, the International Monetary Fund were established. International conventions were signed and international laws were created with one goal: to build a new, more just world in which individuals and nations would be committed to preventing such atrocities. It was a new human experiment, not perfect, not always stable or consistent, but it was the first time in history that most of humanity said to itself, never again. That global order is now collapsing before our eyes. At Davos last week, world leaders made clear again and again in different ways the same thing. The rules that have governed the world since the Second World War no longer exist. International institutions led by the United Nations have ceased to function. And Israel knows this better than anyone. The UN's treatment of Israel is the diplomatic equivalent of a psychotic episode. Israel makes up 0.1% of the world's population, yet accounts for more than 60% of UN condemnation resolutions over the past decade. In 2023, the year of Hamas's October 7th attack against Israel, after Israeli babies were burned alive, women were raped, peaceful civilians were killed, the UN General Assembly passed 15 resolutions against Israel, compared to only 8 against the rest of the world combined. This was not an exceptional year. Over the past 10 years, the General Assembly passed 187 resolutions against Israel and only 86 against the entire rest of the world. During this decade, far more people were killed in each of the wars, in Syria, in Yemen, in Ethiopia, in Myanmar, and then in the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians, yes, including the current war in Gaza. Yet the UN continued to vote obsessively against Israel. As the Prime Minister just mentioned, Iran has just committed one of the worst massacres of a state against its own civilians in modern history. We don't yet know the full extent of the killing. The numbers keeps increasing. The photos and images are horrifying. Yet the silence is deafening. Mr. Prime Minister, you and I both know that the UN will still condemn Israel more times than Iran this year as well. Or to be precise, they will again condemn the Jews. Under these circumstances, there is no point pretending that global justice still exists. Democratic states have understood that there is no sense in obeying rules when others ignore them with contempt. But this places us before what seems like an impossible dilemma. If there are no rules in the world, how are we supposed to act in order to protect and strengthen our national interests? The answer is simple. If there are no rules and no order, the only thing we have left is our values. In many ways, the answer to this new era is the Albanian model. In 1943, the world told Albania, there are no rules anymore. If you want to survive, you must surrender. And the Albanians answered, maybe there are no rules left, but we have our values. We believe in the sanctity of life. We believe that you cannot just murder innocent people. We believe in friendship. This is what must happen in the new world we are living in. The collapse of the rules should not lead to chaos, but rather to the creation of new partnerships with nations and people who share our values. We must be realistic. We must recognize that every country has its own interests. We must recognize the need to be strong and able to protect ourselves. Israel has always said that we will defend ourselves by ourselves, and that will never change. But the best way to advance those interests is not by isolating ourselves, but by extending a hand to countries with whom we share common values. In the face of changes in globalization and in the rules of global economy, if we want to build a strong local economy, then instead of global trade agreements, we must find partners with whom we can build economic ties. If we want to confront dangerous actors like Iran and prevent them from achieving regional hegemony, we must build regional security partnerships with those who oppose religious fanaticism and, like us, understand the dangers of radical Islam. And if we want to ensure the Jews around the world are protected, we must enlist governments and states that are willing to fight anti-Semitism and defend the Jewish communities living within their borders. Small, agile, unilateral agreements are the future of international cooperation. When I served as Prime Minister, we met back then. We formed the Negev Forum and the I2U2 initiative, models of international cooperation outside of the old global order. We saw what was coming and started to build the foundations. Instead of hoping that institutions like the United Nations, which has gone bankrupt, will fix the world, we must know how to build smaller, more agile partnerships directly connected to the challenges that concerns us. We must decide whom we trust and work with them efficiently and confidently. Such a partnership exists between us and Albania. We can deepen it, expand it, and make it serve not only the interests of our two countries, but also our shared values and our shared belief in the human spirit in a relationship founded on Bessa. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
And now, as they elevate the podium for you, Prime Minister, חברות וחברי הכנסת, אני מתכבד להזמין את ראש ממשלת אלבניה, מר אדי רמה, לשאת דברים.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm not entirely certain that I'm truly standing on the very floor beneath my feet, the same floor from which the most honored guests of this state have addressed this House. And although modesty has never been my most reliable virtue, I confess that I struggle to believe that I deserve such an immense distinction. But I am quite sure that Albania, which I represent with pride, and the people of my nation, who stood, as few others did, for the Jewish people, truly deserve every respect from the State of Israel. And so did the highly distinguished Presidential Medal of Honor that His Excellency President Herzog, a noble and faithful friend of Albania, bestowed on me. Peace and the mercy of God Almighty be upon you, and may peace be for us all, God willing. These were the words with which a human lighthouse of courage and reconciliation, a leader whose life and death were shaped by the relentless pursuit of peace, President Anwar Sadat of Egypt, may his memory be blessed, opened his historic address to the Knesset from this very place. He continued, peace for us all, on Arab land and in Israel as well, and in every part of this vast world, so burdened by bloody conflicts, torn by sharp contradictions, and threatened again and again by destructive wars launched by men to annihilate his fellow man. For amid the ruins of what humanity has built and the remains of its victims, there emerges neither victor nor vanquished. The only vanquished is man, God's most sublime creation. Words spoken under this roof, drawn from the heart of a general raised in wars who, after waging his own, stunned the world by leading his country toward a peace agreement with Israel. Nearly half a century later, they resonate with the same force and the same urgency as when they were first pronounced. Honorable Mr. Speaker, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Lapid, ladies and gentlemen of the Knesset, I could not find better words with which to begin my own address and to steady my breath against the very real emotion I knew I would feel in this very special place. And if Mossad had not yet informed you, I can inform you that my knees are trembling. And there is another reason my knees are trembling. I knew it. To be fully sincere with you, I also knew that speaking here would feel like a speech delivery exam, having to deliver it in front of one of the top 5 speakers in the world, at least in my own chart, Prime Minister Netanyahu. I'll do my best, dear Bibi, to survive your judgment, fully aware that I am merely the second speaker worldwide after Trump, whom you simply cannot avoid listening to. Allow me now, with a possibly calmer breath, to extend to the Speaker of this House my highest appreciation for his meaningful words, to the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, my deepest respect and my most heartfelt thanks for the generous words they shared about Albania and about myself, and to this House, my very profound gratitude for welcoming me here today. Thank you all. I can't be more grateful. And returning to my speech and to my choice to introduce myself through the words of a great Arab leader, allow me to add something personal, because I have learned that among Jews, everything becomes personal, and rather quickly. I'm not Muslim. My better half is Muslim. I'm Catholic. Our two older children from earlier chapters of our lives are Christian Orthodox. And the youngest, our 11-year-old boy, will decide for himself one day, but given his uncontainable excitement whenever he's told that we might make wishes at the Western Wall, the idea that he may one day choose to become Jewish is not completely far-fetched. And that would be fine with us. Just as it would be absolutely fine if he chose to be Muslim or to be Christian. Nevertheless, make no mistake, this small family portrait of ours is not a unique eccentricity. It is in truth a normal Albanian story. The same is true of our 4 traditional religious communities, which celebrate each other's important days, and of their leaders, who gather regularly, as they did, for example, to accompany President Herzog when he laid a wreath at our Holocaust memorial in Tirana during his historic visit, as the first ever Israeli head of state to land in Albania. It is a spirit forged across centuries of hardship, occupation, and poverty. It was this same spirit that brought Albanians of all faiths into the streets to welcome and greet Pope Francis when he visited our country, and with his captivating and saintly voice corrected the label we often use. No, said the Holy Father, yours is not religious tolerance, it is religious fraternity, because it rests not on patience, but on the quiet certainty that faith is not weakened by the presence of another faith, it is opened by it. To that spirit we owe with pride one of our highest moral honors. 73 Albanians of all faiths, recognized as righteous among the nations, whose memory shines within the walls of human dignity at Yad Vashem. And with the same pride, we'll soon open our first museum dedicated to the protection and salvation of Jews in the city of Vlora, Albania's largest medieval city, where, guess what, in the 16th century, Jews fleeing persecution in the West made up more than half of its own population. Our young people and the many guests who come from all over the world to visit our beautiful country, where the number of Israeli tourists, by the way, last year grew far faster than from any other nation, will see there with their own eyes and hear with their own ears how small Albania was always a safe refuge for Jews long before our era, and how ordinary Albanians made that very small place the only country on Europe's map to emerge from the Second World War with more Jews than it had when it entered the war. No one else in Europe can claim such a historical clean sheet, with not a single Jew, not one, handed over to the Nazis. And no one better than Albania can bear witness to a simple truth, that being Muslim and being anti-Semitic are not bound together by faith in God, by God's most abhorrent betrayal. And no greater honor and heavier responsibility than to bear witness to this truth here, in the heart of Israel, at a moment when the heartbreaking war in Gaza, through the unbearable suffering of innocent families, both Israeli and Palestinian, has opened a new window of opportunity for peace-building efforts to succeed. There is no doubt that part of this great honor for me is to come here a few days after the Albanian parliament ratified the decision to join President Trump in his efforts for peace and conflict resolution, and to make Albania a founding member of his Board of Peace, humbly contributing to the monumental task of turning that new window of opportunity into a new horizon of hope and prosperity for the people of Gaza and for the region. Now, allow me to take you with me for a moment far from Jerusalem, to the center of our capital city, Tirana. There is a tunnel beneath its heart. It was built to torture the so-called enemies of the people and ultimately to withstand an attack from the United States or the Soviet Union, a paranoia poured into concrete by a regime that feared every light of freedom and held its own people hostage in an open-air prison. This vivid memory has always made me feel sorry for respected and well-meaning international public figures or associations who rightly describe Gaza as an open-air prison, but failed to identify the true jailer of the people of Gaza. They mistook the finger for what the finger it was pointing at, and in doing so, they failed to recognize that the jailer of Gaza is Hamas, no one else but Hamas. Its ideology of terror against its own people first and foremost, and toward the Jewish nation. Its totalitarian dogma that no Palestinian life is worth living until the state of Israel is annihilated and the last Jew is wiped out from the Holy Land. Therefore, until Hamas is fully dismantled, its 2 million prisoners will never be truly free and no peace can endure. Today, that tunnel in Tirana has been transformed into a space dedicated to the victims of those who originally constructed the tunnel. And I wish with all my heart that a few of the countless tunnels of terror Hamas built, where the hostages taken on 7th of October were killed, raped, tortured, and reduced to 21st century human replicas of the prisoners in Nazi Germany extermination camps, will be preserved as part of the Gaza reconstruction plan and later as defining testimony in favor of lasting peace among the two future states. They should stand as tunnels of collective memory and healing, where both the hellish suffering of the hostages and the enormous loss of Palestinian lives were converted into the most horrifying defense system ever built by the human evil mind, raw material whose bricks were human bodies, may serve as eternally lit candles of forgiveness without forgetting, and as a permanent call to all that for such horrors to never happen again, the roots of the cause should be cleaned. As you descend the stairs of the Tirana tunnel, a sentence in neon light by Primo Levi watches over you. Those who forget their past are condemned to relive it. We engraved this very familiar name in light on the wall, and I invoke him here not to create any impossible parallel between the industrial extermination of the Jewish people